So tax cuts coming soon, maybe not right this minute. The priority is replacing Obamacare. There you go. Forbes media chairman Steve Forbes, Veronica Dagher of the Wall Street Journal, and Barron senior editor Jack Hough join me now. Jack, what do you make of this?
Well, it makes sense. You know, every spending program in America is buried somewhere in the tax code. So you have to, you have to do one before you do the other. Look, I've said before, I'm happy to see what comes next after Obamacare. The answer isn't the insurance. The answer is going to be something to drive the cost lower. I've heard President Trump talk about getting drug costs under control. Yeah. That gets me more excited.
Steve Forbes, nothing gets me more excited than tax cuts.
Me too.
First.
Well, tax cuts are good, but the key thing is in this tax bill that they end up proposing that they don't have this crazy 20% national sales tax on imports, which would hit the American consumer, especially working Americans, $125 billion a year. If they leave that crazy thing out, then this is going to be extremely positive. Do what Reagan did, what John Kennedy did, have a massive tax cut, and you'll start to see this economy move, and make it retroactive to Jan 1. The budgeteers, budget people will gag, but if the Americans see right away they're getting something positive, that'll be good for them, good for the economy.
Veronica, you know, I thought the import tax was all talk, but I've learned in the past 2 weeks that nothing was all talk.
Nothing's all talk.
Nothing was all talk.
Right, with this president, not at all. We can't take anything for granted. When it comes to tax reform, though, I think the Republicans have their work cut out for them. They've got different parts of the party aren't necessarily on the same page. So consumers and people at Wall Street want to know what the corporate tax is going to be, what deductions are going to go on the wayside, and how, within their own party, how are the Republicans going to please the deficit hawks? They're not, some people are not exactly enthusiastic on the idea of tax cuts without budget cuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, I mean, that's one of the hurdles to get over, although some would say that the tax cuts, you stimulate the economy, they will pay for themselves. What do you think?
Not necessarily. It really depends what shape they take. If we're going to cut taxes just for the rich people, look, rich people don't spend everything they earn. They're going to take the extra money and they save it. If we can get some of those tax cuts to flow down to lower income folks, the great thing about lower income folks is they spend everything. If you get them more money, they will spend it. They will spend it on someone else's job. That person will get helped. The benefit will multiply through the economy. So we have to see where the money's going to go before we know.
All right. I'm with you, though. I think any tax cut is a good thing. Also boosting stocks today, the biggest gain since September in Trump's first month, a stellar January jobs report as the economy added 227,000 jobs. It smashed expectations of 175,000, about 30% better than the expectations. This, as Japan's prime minister saying his country is going to show unwavering alliance, his phrase, planning an investment in the U.S. that he claims is going to create close to 700,000 jobs. Steve, I'm wondering how he can make this claim.
Well, I think they're in an environment where they want to have to be blunt about it, some happy talk. The Japanese economy has been troubled, even though they have periods where they look like they're recovering. They never are able to sustain it. The U.S. economy, are we finally going to get out of this second-gear rut that we're in? So, and also, Japan's very worried, especially when the Trans-Pacific trade deal got scuttled by President Trump. Japan's very worried, is the U.S. going to be a real long-term player in the Pacific? So he wants to do anything possible to strengthen that alliance, because he knows Japan alone will be ultimately a Japan that goes for nuclear weapons.
But, Jack,
nobody wants that.
In light of the problems that Japan has been having, how can they gin up the money for 700,000 jobs here?
You know, one of the ways is in Japan's economy, there is so much waste. One of the things that, as a stock investor, by the way, one of the things you ought to be excited about in Japan is when you look, we've had cost-cutting and efficiency drives for decades here. They haven't had it in Japan. They're only starting it right now. There's so much room to make more money in that economy. And I think they're doing just the right thing by getting ahead of this with the U.S., talking about this as benefits coming into the U.S. Yeah. What a radical thought. Someone saying, hey, if my trading partner gets richer, that's good for me. I can do more business. I wish every world leader was saying similar things
But
right
Veronica,
now.
Again, because of the slowdown in the Japanese economy, they've had 3 decades of slow growth. Wouldn't there be political outcry if they focused on 700,000 jobs here in the U.S. without addressing the jobs in Japan?
Right. You'd think that would be the case. That's going to be for the Japanese Prime Minister to deal with, not for President Trump to deal with. What's interesting about this, and I want to see what happens in the future, we've got the Japanese Prime Minister coming and offering up jobs to us. What other countries are going to start doing this? It could be an exciting time for the United States as some countries try to ingratiate themselves with this new administration.
Well,